The shipping giant Maersk says it sees no signs yet that the US economy is heading for a recession. The Denmark-based firm has raised its guidance repeatedly throughout the year as shipping demand remains strong, and now says in its results were boosted by robust demand for Chinese exports. The Maersk chief executive Vincent Clerc discussed the company's outlook with Julia.
We are indeed in a significantly different context than what we were 6 months ago, which led to these three upward revisions. We have, first of all, a very strong market demand reflecting actually a much more resilient macroeconomic environment than what we anticipated. And then the second thing is really that the Red Sea disruptions, which started around the end of last year, have become more entrenched. There is no solution in sight, and this has led us to have to plan with longer routes for longer time, meaning also shortages of capacity, higher prices, as we also take on more costs. So a very different outlook, less growth in the second part than in the first, but still a fairly resilient macroeconomic environment as far as we can see.
I want to come back to the macro just on the Red Sea crisis. It obviously means more container demand. It means longer routes, for example, too. I know it's tough to predict, but fortunately, that's your job. Can you give us a sense of just what you're thinking in terms of time horizon and seeing still such a significant impact on the business?
Yeah, I think when this started at the end of last year, our view was that within 3 to 6 months, we would have a solution, either diplomatic or military, to the problem, and that would be able to reestablish safe passage. I think today, what we have seen is a constant escalation, a larger zone where the attacks are taking place, still a high frequency of attack. And therefore, there's no sign of de-escalation or solution in sight for a safe passage, which leads us to believe that at least until the end of the year, we're going to continue to sail the way that we're doing today.
Yeah, and certainly I think we'll continue to watch it, obviously, very closely as well. Let's talk about the macroeconomic environment. You mentioned the word resiliency in a surprising level. Certainly here in the United States, everybody's very much focused on what we're seeing in terms of economic slowdown in the United States. You and I have talked in the past about watching the consumer, perhaps darker clouds forming. What are you seeing in terms of demand? And is there any sense of significant slowdown in the numbers that you're seeing?
So far what we've seen is that after 2 years in Europe of having a lot of customers running down their inventory as they expected a recession in Europe, they have had to come to the conclusion that actually there is more resilience in the Europe consumer than they were expecting, and therefore we're seeing replenishment cycles and orders that come more in line with the demand that we're seeing in Europe. We're also seeing emerging markets that are actually rebounding as economic activity is increasing following COVID now, and there is more discretionary income to spend on the type of goods that we're moving. With respect to North America, actually what we have seen is a sequential, very, very stable level of import. Some of it probably being pulled forward as some customers will fear either labor disruption on the East Coast or tariff coming possibly after the election. But it is in line with still a strong and resilient consumer demand. Inventories are marginally up in the US compared to the beginning of the year, but not at a worrisome level. And purchase order for the Christmas or the holiday season goods for the third quarter here seems to continue to be quite robust. So I know there's been a lot of turbulence in the market following the job reports, but at least for the type of macro indicators that we're looking at, there is no sign at this stage that the US would be headed for a recession.
Yeah, I certainly trust what you're seeing in the field that you have rather than one data point. Let's be clear on this. Just very quickly, what you were saying there, though, I do think is very important. We're a few months out now from a presidential election where at least one candidate's talked about significantly, potentially raising tariff rates. Do you think some weakness could be masked, potentially by firms buying in ahead of that, restocking ahead of that, just in case?
That is certainly something that we're keeping an eye on. And I think for me, the key data point here is to look at inventory level in the United States. Because if that was the case, we would see sharp increases in the inventory. People are stocking up to avoid tariffs for the first part of next year. As I mentioned, we've seen those inventory actually increase a little bit, but they are not at what you would consider very high or worrisome level at this stage, which would be actually a lead indicator for a much weaker 2025. That's not what we're seeing yet.